There were a number of things that happened under the Abbasids that I think that were important, and I'm going to give you 4 of them. One was that over time we began to see polities that broke away and became separate, so that we begin to, for example, see Kharijite states in North Africa who are self-governing, that set themselves apart from the Abbasids. Most importantly, the Ismaili Fatimid Empire in Egypt gets established in the 10th Empire as a separate Muslim empire. You can see the fraying of that imperial unity. In 922, this is a really important event, a charismatic Sufi by the name of Mansur Al-Hallaj, who lived in Baghdad, and who had many years earlier been arrested for going out into the street and saying in a state of ecstasy, Ana al-Haq, I am the truth. Since al-Haq is one of the 99 beautiful names of God, it sounded like he was saying, I am God, which is a violation of the most important Islamic notion, the notion of shirk. You've committed shirk. You seem to be equating yourself with God. Hallaj, however, was a very popular person, and he had angered a lot of other people. People would come to him and say, I'm going on the Hajj. He said, why? Give the money to the poor and walk around my house 7 times. It's the same thing. And he actually said, I didn't violate Tawheed, the unity of God. You see, the unity of God means that there's only one. If I would have said, thou art the truth, then there would have been 2. How could I exist in the presence of my beloved? There could only be one. Which meant that some of the people who signed Hallaj's death warrant actually thought that what he did was the truth, but he shouldn't have revealed it because it was a secret. It was a sir that only the Sufi should have for themselves. Point is that when they marched Hallaj to the gallows, people threw stones at him. When the stones hit him, he laughed. And one of his disciples threw a rose at him. When the rose hit him, he cried because the rose from a friend hurts more than the stone from an enemy, which becomes a line in all kinds of Arabic and Turkish songs for decades to come. And after, depending on how we hear the way he was killed, at some point they chopped off his head and the blood spurted out and spelled An al-Haq in the dust. So they burned his body and scattered the ashes so no one would remember Hallaj. And guess what? People write poetry about Hallaj in every language in the Islamic world. There's Hallaj poetry in Turkish, in Malay, in Swahili, in Arabic, in Urdu. Ideas that we'll talk about tomorrow when we talk about Ibn Arabi, about the mystery of divine unity. Hallaj becomes an important trope in Islam that goes on for, well, even up until now. And it even happens the other way. You get Turkish pop songs where people say, I love you like I'm Mansur Gibiyim. Now I'm like Mansur, right? Because I love you that much. But Mansur Hallaj becomes this important figure. In 941, another important event, the final occultation of the 12th Imam. So the 12th Imam disappears once and for all. No one will ever have access to him again until he returns to bring about a just world. And that's important because it's raining. In 945, is this a sign? Okay. The Zaydis, a Zaydi group called the Buyids. Remember the Zaydis? They're the ones who believe you don't have to have an imam, they happen to be not from the family of the Prophet. They conquered Baghdad and set up their own kingdom apart from the Abbasids. And this is really significant because this is the first time we then see they come along, rulers come along and say, we're not going to try to take over the entire Muslim Ummah, we're going to have our own kingdom. We'll have a Buyid kingdom, and with its capital in Baghdad. And this begins to set what we're going to start talking about tomorrow, is that after the 10th century, the model for Islamic history shifts. Instead of a contestation for a single Muslim empire, the Muslim world is a series of smaller Muslim polities that border each other and have to figure out how to deal both with themselves and with the non-Muslims that are on their borders. And that becomes the model after that. This is the end of that notion that the Ummah would exist as a single polity, and a real turning point in Islam that changes with the next players on the map, which is, this also coincides with the beginning of Turkish nomads beginning to come from Central Asia and establish Muslim kingdoms in what was the original homeland of Islam.